The silverware against fine china was the only sound that filled the beach house terrace as the words hung in the air. "Sarah, dear." My mother-in-law Regina's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the budget hotels in town. This is a family gathering after all." I stared at my husband Michael, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he studied his plate intently before mumbling, "Honey, Mom has a point. It is getting crowded and you'd probably be more comfortable." My chest tightened as if someone had cinched a belt around my ribs. 5 years of marriage, and he couldn't even meet my eyes while offering me up as a sacrifice to please his mother. Across the table, Jessica from Michael's office, the woman they'd invited without telling me, smirked behind her wine glass, her designer swimsuit still visible beneath her casual dinner wrap. "My name is Rachel. I'm 34, and I own a multi-million-dollar resort chain. This is the story of how I revealed my true identity to the family who thought I was nothing more than the help." For years, I'd allowed my in-laws to believe I worked as a simple hotel receptionist. They never bothered to ask details about my little job in hospitality, as Regina called it. My husband knew the truth when we met at a hotel management conference a decade ago, but he'd agreed with my desire to keep a low profile with his status-obsessed family. "Let them get to know me for me," I'd said. Michael, eager to avoid his mother's interrogations about my background and worried she would only value me for my wealth, readily agreed to maintain the charade. What I'd learned instead was exactly who they were. Regina, with her country club membership and luxury car, treated me with thinly veiled contempt. Amanda, my sister-in-law, followed her mother's lead, while her husband Tom nodded along. Michael squirmed when they made snide remarks about my career, but never corrected them. 2 months ago, everything changed. I'd been approaching the kitchen during a family dinner when I overheard Regina talking to Amanda. "It's time Michael traded up," she'd said, unaware I was just around the corner. That Jessica from his office would be perfect. Her father owns half of downtown. Sarah's sweet, but she's just not our caliber. This beach trip is our chance to show Michael the difference between class and, well, you know. I'd stepped back silently, my fingers finding the resort key card in my pocket, the master key with my name and title emblazoned on it. In that moment, I decided this annual family vacation at Sapphire Bay, my flagship resort, which I had acquired shortly before meeting Michael, would be different. I'd arrived early on Friday, coming in through my private access road that connects directly to my administrative offices at the rear of the property. The staff, who knew exactly who I was, but were trained in absolute discretion, had prepared everything according to my specifications. I changed into a simple sundress, exactly the kind Regina would consider cheap, and waited. They arrived in a convoy of luxury cars, Regina leading the way in her Mercedes SUV. Michael kissed me hello while his mother surveyed the house with her usual proprietary air. The surprise addition to their group confirmed my suspicions. Jessica from Michael's office, wearing a designer swimsuit that probably cost more than Regina thought I made in a month. "Sarah, dear." Regina's voice carried that familiar false sweetness. "Help Maria with the luggage, won't you?" She gestured to their housekeeper, who was struggling with several expensive bags. "Actually," I smiled, "Maria can take the afternoon off. I've arranged for butler service for the house." Regina's eyes narrowed at my presumption. "And who," she asked icily, "is paying for that?" "Oh, don't worry about it," I replied mildly. "It's taken care of." The afternoon proceeded according to Regina's obvious script. Jessica was seated next to Michael at every opportunity, while I was consistently relegated to the far end of the group. My husband, I noticed with growing disappointment, did nothing to stop it. During dinner, Regina's orchestrations reached new heights. "Sarah," she announced from her place at the head of the table, "be a dear and check why the air conditioning isn't working properly in the East Wing." I set down my wine glass. "I can call maintenance." No, she interrupted. "You work in hospitality. Surely you know how to handle these little problems." She turned immediately to Jessica. "Why don't you tell Michael more about your father's new development project?" I felt a familiar buzz from my phone, the resort security team sending their nightly report. I excused myself, not that anyone besides Maria noticed, and stepped into the house. Through the window, I could see Jessica touching Michael's arm, laughing at something he'd said. My husband was beaming at the attention. The security report included camera footage from the beach house. I watched Regina and Amanda in the kitchen earlier, spiking my water glass with what appeared to be a digestive disruptor. How original. I tapped a quick message to my head of security. Proceed with Protocol 17. When I returned to the terrace, Regina was holding court. Really, Sarah, I don't know why you insist on wearing that Target dress to dinner. We have standards here. Right, Michael? My husband shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Jessica smirked behind her wine glass. Speaking of standards, Regina continued, I've been thinking this house really isn't big enough for everyone. Sarah dear, perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the budget hotels in town. This is a family gathering after all. The doors to the terrace opened. John, my head of security, appeared with 2 other officers. Mrs. Bennett, he addressed me formally, is everything all right? Regina stood up, outraged. Who are you? How dare you interrupt our family dinner? Sarah, since you work here, deal with this immediately. The moment had arrived. 5 years of condescension, of subtle digs and not so subtle insults. 5 years of watching my husband fail to stand up for me. I smiled, reaching into my purse for my master key card and ID badge. Actually, Regina, I do need to deal with this. As owner and CEO of Sapphire Bay Resorts, I'm afraid I have to inform you that your reservation has been canceled. The silence was absolute. Michael's fork clattered to his plate. Owner? Regina whispered. Yes, I replied calmly. Owner of this resort and the entire chain. All 17 properties, actually. And since you violated multiple terms of your rental agreement, attempting to tamper with another guest's food and drink, for instance, I'm exercising my right to terminate your stay. But, Amanda sputtered, you're just a hotel clerk. No, that's just what you chose to believe because it fit your prejudices. I've owned this resort chain for 12 years. I let you treat me like the help because I wanted to see who you really were. Congratulations, you showed me. I turned to my husband, who was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Michael, I'm disappointed but not surprised by your behavior. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about divorce proceedings. And Jessica, I addressed the now pale woman, you might want to update your resume. I've been in negotiations to purchase a controlling interest in your father's company for the past month, and the paperwork finalizes tomorrow. Your position is being eliminated in the upcoming restructuring. Regina found her voice. You can't do this. We have a contract. The contract you never bothered to read? The one that gives me the right to evict guests for cause? John, please escort everyone out. Their belongings will be sent to whatever accommodations they can find in town. I paused. Though I should warn you, I own all the luxury properties in a 50-mile radius. You might want to try the Motel 6. You've been lying to us for years. Regina shrieked as security began clearing the terrace. No, Regina. I simply let you show me who you really were. You never bothered to ask what I actually did, never showed any interest in my work or my life. You were too busy trying to replace me with someone you thought was better suited to your social status. I watched as they were escorted to their cars. Regina still protesting, Amanda in tears, Jessica trying desperately to make calls on her phone. Michael lingered. Rachel, I didn't know. That's the problem, Michael. You didn't want to know. You were so worried about keeping your mother happy that you never stood up for your wife. Good luck with the divorce. Don't worry about a settlement. I've already transferred enough to your account to buy a small condo. Maybe your mother will let you live in her pool house. As their cars disappeared down the private drive, I turned to Maria, who was watching with wide eyes. Maria, I'd like to offer you a new position as head of housekeeping services for the resort, with full benefits and triple your current salary, of course. The woman burst into tears of joy, hugging me. Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. I can't believe you let them treat you that way all these years. I smiled, watching the sunset over my resort. Sometimes, Maria, the best revenge is simply letting people show you exactly who they are. Now, shall we discuss your new duties over dinner? I believe we have a lovely meal going to waste. The video went viral 3 days later. One of my security team had been recording the entire interaction for evidence purposes, as is standard protocol when enforcing rental agreement violations. The clip of Regina screaming, "But we're family," while being walked to her Mercedes racked up millions of views. Social media had a field day with the Beach House Boss Lady saga, particularly when someone dug up Regina's old Facebook posts, bragging about treating the family to luxury vacations at Sapphire Bay. I watched the fallout from my private suite at the resort's penthouse, sipping coffee and reviewing acquisition proposals. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since that night. Calls from Regina, Michael, Amanda, their friends, their country club associates. I blocked them all, but maintained an open line through my executive assistant who screened all correspondence. The only call I took was from Jessica's father. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "I believe we need to discuss the recent changes in company ownership." "Mr. Bradford," I replied, "we certainly do, particularly your daughter's involvement in attempting to break up my marriage. I'm sure the board would be interested in those text messages between her and my mother-in-law plotting to seduce my husband during a company-sponsored event. My security team intercepted them on our property's secured Wi-Fi network." The silence on his end was delicious. "Now," I continued, "about that merger you've been pursuing with Henderson Group. I'm prepared to make it happen, provided Jessica is relocated to your Singapore office immediately." "That can be arranged." "Wonderful. My lawyers will be in touch." The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Michael's lawyer nearly choked when he saw my financial disclosures. The prenup I'd insisted on, the one Regina had called unnecessary for someone of Sarah's position, proved invaluable. Michael got exactly what we'd agreed to. Enough for a modest fresh start, nothing more. Regina's attempts at damage control backfired spectacularly. Her tearful interview with a local news station claiming she'd been blindsided by her daughter-in-law's deception prompted my PR team to release security footage of her attempting to tamper with my drink. The resulting headlines weren't kind. "Mother-in-law's tampering attempt exposed. Beach House drama continues." Amanda tried playing peacemaker, showing up at my corporate office unannounced, having convinced my receptionist she had an appointment by using her maiden name instead of Wallace. "Rachel, please," she begged. "Mom's a wreck. The country club is freezing her out. Her charity board asked her to step down. Can't you make this all go away?" I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing plans for my newest resort acquisition, coincidentally the very property Regina had been bragging about booking for next year's family vacation. "Make what go away, Amanda? The consequences of your actions? The truth about how you all treated me? Or just the public embarrassment of being exposed? We didn't know who you were." "That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have to know someone's net worth to treat them with basic respect." I turned my screen to show her the property listing. "By the way, I just bought the Vista Del Mar Resort. Your mother might want to find a new venue for her annual I'm Better Than You vacation." The aftermath rippled through their social circle. Regina's carefully cultivated image as the family matriarch crumbled. Her friends, those same women who'd smirked at her subtle digs about her daughter-in-law's modest background, now whispered about her behind designer handbags. The irony of them doing so in my hotels wasn't lost on me. Michael attempted reconciliation exactly once. He showed up at my corporate office wearing the suit he'd bought for our wedding, having scheduled a meeting through proper channels under the pretense of discussing his settlement. "I miss you," he said, standing awkwardly in front of my desk. "I was wrong. I should have stood up to them." Yes, you should have." I kept my voice neutral. "But you didn't. Not once in 5 years. I didn't know you owned all this. If I'd known..." "That's the problem, Michael. You needed to know I was wealthy to treat me with respect. It should have been enough that I was your wife." He left my office with slumped shoulders, finally understanding what he'd lost. Not my money, but my trust, my respect, and any chance of a future together. 6 months after the Beach House incident, I hosted a charity gala at my flagship resort. The event raised millions for educational scholarships for hospitality workers. Maria, now my head of housekeeping services, gave a moving speech about opportunities and second chances. Regina tried to purchase a ticket. Her payment was refunded with a note. We reserve the right to refuse service. The media coverage was extensive. Business magazines that had once dismissed me as lucky or in the right place at the right time now praised my strategic brilliance in building my empire. A famous business journal wanted to profile me for their Women in Leadership issue. Looking back, I told the interviewer, I'm almost grateful for how they treated me. It taught me valuable lessons about character, about how people behave when they think you're beneath them. I've incorporated those lessons into my company culture. Every employee, from dishwasher to executive, is treated with equal respect. The article went viral. Applications to work at my resorts tripled. I instituted a new hiring policy. Any hint of elitism or superiority in an interview was automatic disqualification. 1 year after the beach house incident, I received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's engagement party at my business address. My executive assistant, who screens all my mail, brought it to my attention. Apparently, she'd returned from Singapore and they'd reconnected. The venue? One of my competitors' hotels, the only luxury property in the area I didn't own. I sent a gift, a framed copy of the rental agreement from that fateful beach weekend, with the clause about behavior-based eviction highlighted. My note read, "Congratulations. May your new family treat each other better than your last one treated me." Regina, I heard through my extensive industry network where hospitality professionals frequently share information, had sold her beach house, the one she'd spent years renovating to keep up with the Sapphire Bay aesthetic. The buyer? My company? Through a shell corporation with a completely different name and business address than my main holdings. I had it converted into a retreat center for overworked hospitality employees. The transformation of my business continued. Sapphire Bay Resorts became known for more than luxury. We were celebrated for our corporate culture, our employee retention, and our zero-tolerance policy for guest harassment of staff. Maria's daughter became our first scholarship recipient, heading to Cornell's hotel management program with a full ride. When Regina's friends complained about the decline in service standards since I'd instituted my progressive policies, I had their memberships in our loyalty program revoked. The final twist came during a routine business acquisition 2 years later. I was reviewing the purchase of a small but exclusive country club, the very one where Regina had held court for decades. "Mrs. Bennett," my assistant said, "there's one small detail you should know. Mrs. Regina Wallace holds a lifetime membership." I smiled, thinking of all those years of condescension, of being treated like the help, of watching my husband fail to defend me. Please inform Mrs. Wallace that under new ownership, all memberships are subject to review. Her presence will make other members uncomfortable. I used the exact words she'd used about me at the beach house. The letter terminating her membership was delivered the same day she received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's wedding at a budget hotel ballroom. Apparently, Jessica's father's new Singapore-based position had affected their circumstances more than expected. I donated Regina's membership fees to the scholarship fund. The first recipient? Maria's youngest daughter, who dreamed of owning her own hotel someday. Sometimes sitting in my penthouse office overlooking the ocean, I think about that last family dinner at the beach house, the shock on their faces, the sudden realization that the person they dismissed had held the power all along. But real power, I've learned, isn't in wealth or status. It's in being true to yourself, in treating everyone with dignity regardless of their position, and in never letting anyone else define your worth. Regina still drives past the resort sometimes, as reported by my security team, who maintain extensive surveillance of the property perimeter. I've seen her car slow down at the gates, seen her stare at the sign that bears my name. I wonder if she finally understands that her greatest mistake wasn't in underestimating my wealth, it was underestimating my worth. The beach house where it all ended is now my favorite private retreat. I've kept one thing from that last dinner, the wine glass Regina tried to spike. It sits in a display case in my office, a reminder that success isn't just about making money. It's about maintaining your dignity while letting others reveal their true character. Last week, I received a letter from Michael. Inside was an invitation to his and Jessica's wedding, forwarded through my company's public address that remains listed for correspondence even after I've blocked personal communications. Along with, it was a handwritten note. "I know you won't come, but I wanted you to see what rock bottom looks like. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." I sent back a response on Sapphire Bay letterhead. Congratulations, I've booked you the honeymoon suite at our Singapore property. Consider it my wedding gift and a reminder that class has nothing to do with money. The suite, of course, didn't exist, but I'm sure they'll figure that out when they get there. After all, some lessons are best learned the hard way. The motion before us is to remove Olivia Hayes as CEO and install a more qualified candidate. My father-in-law Frederick's words sliced through the air, crystallizing in that moment what I'd suspected for weeks. The mahogany conference table, the one I'd salvaged from a liquidation sale 15 years ago when I couldn't afford office furniture, suddenly felt like it was tilting beneath my fingertips. Around me sat my husband's entire family, their faces alight with barely concealed triumph. Nathan avoided my gaze, positioned strategically between his parents, his leather portfolio placed precisely at the table's center like a barrier. "She's just a housewife who got lucky," burst out my brother-in-law Martin, his voice echoing in the conference room I'd designed. Right place, right time when Nathan's app took off. But running a tech company? Come on. "I second the motion," added my sister-in-law Paige, tucking her hair behind her ear with manicured precision. "No offense, Olivia, but you don't even have a business degree. You were literally making jewelry on Etsy when Nathan met you." The familiar heat of indignation spread across my chest, but instead of the panic they expected, a strange calm settled over me. I reached for my phone, maintaining eye contact with Frederick as I sent a pre-composed text to my assistant. "All in favor of removing Olivia as CEO?" Frederick asked, his hand shooting up first. One by one, the hands rose. Nathan's went up last, slowly, but it went up. "Motion carries," Frederick announced gleefully. "Now for the new CEO, I nominate—" Everyone's phones buzzed simultaneously. "My name is Olivia. I'm 37 and a software engineer. This is the story of how I reclaimed my company from the family that tried to erase me." I'd seen this coming weeks ago when Nathan started having private lunches with his father, when files disappeared from my secure server, when board meeting times changed without my knowledge, when conversations stopped abruptly as I entered rooms. I hadn't built a technology company from nothing without learning to notice patterns. 3 days ago, my IT director, one of my original employees who'd been with me since before I met Nathan, forwarded me an email accidentally sent to her. It detailed today's plan to vote me out, right down to the conference room seating arrangement. I'd spent those 72 hours preparing my counterattack, gathering documents, and setting up the presentation they were about to see. "What is this?" Martin pulled out his phone, his face paling as he read. I watched as confusion replaced smugness on each of their faces as they scrolled through the original company registration documents from 15 years ago, the incorporation papers, the patent filings, my name, my maiden name, Olivia Turner, on every single document. "I don't understand," Paige stammered. "This says the company was founded in 2009, but Nathan and Olivia only met in 2016. "That's correct," I said calmly, speaking for the first time. "I founded Horizon Technologies 7 years before I met your son, before I married into this family, before I was, as you put it, just a housewife who got lucky." Frederick's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. But Nathan said... "Nathan said what?" I turned to my husband, who was studying the table like it held the secrets of the universe. "That it was his idea, his company, his success." The silence in the room felt physical. "Perhaps," I continued, standing up, "we should discuss what really happened, since we're having a board meeting and all." I walked to the presentation screen and connected my laptop. The first slide showed a photo of me from 2009, hair in a messy bun, surrounded by computer parts in my studio apartment. 2009. I'm 22, fresh out of MIT with a computer science degree. Yes, Paige, I have a degree, just not in business. I'm working 3 jobs to pay off student loans and coding at night. I clicked through to the next slide. 2010, I developed the compression algorithm that becomes the foundation of Horizon Technologies. The patent is in my name only, my name. More slides. Me at hackathons. Me pitching to investors who laughed at the young woman with big dreams. Me sleeping under my desk because I couldn't afford both rent and office space. 2011 through 2015. Bootstrapping, building, every line of code in our core product, I wrote it. Every client pitch in those early days, I gave it. Every 20-hour day, I worked it. The room was dead silent now. I clicked again. 2016, I meet Nathan at TechCrunch Disrupt. Horizon is finally gaining traction. We have actual employees, real clients. Nathan is charming, supportive. He believes in my vision, or so I thought. More slides. Our wedding. Nathan joining the company as vice president of marketing. The Hayes family at company parties being introduced to investors. What I didn't realize, I said, my voice steady despite the hurricane inside me, was that Nathan was slowly rewriting history. To his family, to our friends, even to new employees. He became the founder. I became the supportive wife who helped out sometimes. That's not, Nathan started. Let me finish, I cut him off. I let it happen. Why? Because I loved him. Because I was exhausted from years of fighting to be taken seriously as a female founder in tech. Because it was easier to let him be the face while I did the work. But you don't do the work, Martin protested. You're always at home with the kids. I smiled coldly. You mean the home office where I still write code? The kids I arrange childcare for during my 60-hour work weeks? The home where I take calls with our Tokyo team at 3 a.m.? No. I pulled up another document. This is our Get repository history. For the non-technical family members, this shows who writes our code. Would you like to guess what percentage has my username on it? 73%. I paused, letting that sink in. Would you like to know Nathan's percentage? 0. I manage the business side. Nathan finally spoke up, his voice carrying none of its usual confidence. You manage your golf schedule, I countered. Our CFO manages the business. Our CMO manages marketing. You have a title and a salary, nothing more. How dare you? Frederick started. How dare I? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. How dare you? You attempted to remove me as CEO of my own company, the company I built from nothing, the company that employs all of you. Oh yes, that was the other thing. Over the years, I'd given jobs to Nathan's family. Frederick was on the board. Martin ran a satellite office. Paige was head of HR. All nepotism hires to keep family peace. But here's the thing about being the actual founder, I continued. I own 67% of this company. Nathan owns 15%. The rest of you, your shares combined, don't even hit 10%. You literally cannot vote me out. Then why did you let us? Paige looked confused. Because I needed to know, I said quietly. I needed to see if my husband, the father of my children, would stand by me or throw me under the bus for his family's approval. I looked at Nathan. You failed that test spectacularly. Liv, I can explain. No need. I pulled up one more document. This is a buyout offer from Microsoft, $800 million. I've been sitting on it for 6 months trying to decide. Watching Nathan take credit for my work in every interview started to bother me, but I told myself it was for the family, for the company's stability. 800. Frederick's greed overtook his shock. We should definitely discuss. We won't be discussing anything, I interrupted, because as of this moment, you're all fired. You can't fire us, Martin jumped up. We're family. You just tried to stage a coup, I pointed out. That's generally grounds for termination. Security is waiting outside to escort you from the building. Nathan, Paige turned to her brother, do something. Nathan looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing his job or status, but fear of losing me. Liv, please, let's talk about this privately. We'll talk, I agreed. Through lawyers. I want a divorce. The room erupted. Frederick threatened lawsuits. Martin threatened exposure. Paige just cried. But I was done. 15 years of my life I'd given to this company. 7 years of marriage where I'd slowly disappeared, becoming Nathan's wife instead of Olivia Turner, tech innovator, My assistant David appeared at the door with security. Should I have them escorted out? It's Ms. Turner, I corrected. And yes, please. As security herded out my soon-to-be ex-in-laws, Nathan lingered. The kids will be fine, I said, anticipating his concern. They'll have a mother who doesn't hide her accomplishments to protect male egos. That's worth more than an intact marriage built on lies. I never meant for it to go this far, he said quietly. At first, it was just easier to let people assume, and then you started believing your own lies, I finished. You actually started thinking you built this, that you deserve the credit. I love you, he said. You love the idea of me, I corrected. The supportive wife who makes you look good, but you don't even know me. Did you know I'm keynoting at 3 conferences next month? That I just got invited to join the National Science Board? Of course not, because Olivia the CEO doesn't fit your narrative. He left without another word. The divorce was messy, but quick. Nathan tried to claim he deserved half the company as marital property. My lawyer laughed and showed the judge and corporation documents predating our marriage by 7 years. The proceedings took just 4 months to finalize, and I was granted primary custody of our children, with Nathan having them every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. The settlement was signed 6 months after that boardroom confrontation. Nathan got his 15% and a generous settlement. I got my freedom. The buyout offer from Microsoft? I turned it down. Instead, I took Horizon Technologies public. Opening day, we hit a $2 billion valuation. My 67% stake made me one of the wealthiest self-made women in tech. The Hayes family tried to sue for wrongful termination. They lost. They tried to smear me in the press. Tech journalists who'd been following my work for years laughed at the idea that I was just a housewife who got lucky. Olivia Turner is one of the most brilliant engineers of her generation, one article stated. The fact that she's been hiding in plain sight, letting her husband take credit, says more about sexism in tech than it does about her capabilities. Nathan tried to launch his own startup with his buyout money. It failed within 6 months. Turns out, charm and confidence don't write code or build products. 6 months after the divorce, I was at a Women in Tech conference when a young founder approached me. Ms. Turner, I just wanted to say thank you. Your story gave me courage to stop letting my co-founder minimize my contributions. What happened? I asked. I fired him, she grinned, and got our biggest client the next day. Turns out they'd always thought I was the talent anyway. Good for you, I said, meaning it. That night, in my new apartment overlooking the bay, I video called my kids. They were with Nathan for the weekend, but we talked every night. Mom, Dad says you stole the company from him, my daughter Emma said. She was 12 and too smart for her own good. What do you think? I asked. I think Dad couldn't steal something that was already yours, she said. Plus, I Googled it. Your name is on everything from before you even met Dad. When did you get so wise? When I realized I was turning invisible too, she said quietly. Every time I did well in math, people said I got Dad's brains, even though you're the one with the MIT degree. You're not invisible to me, I said. I know, that's why I'm going to be like you, the real you, not the pretend housewife version. That version wasn't pretend, I corrected gently. I am a wife and mother. I'm just also a CEO and inventor. Women can be multiple things. Yeah, Emma grinned. We can be everything. 2 years later, Horizon Technologies hit a $5 billion valuation. I was on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, and Wired in the same month. The headlines all mentioned that I was a single mother, but they led with my innovations, my leadership, my vision. The Hayes family meeting had been meant to diminish me, to put me in my place. Instead, it freed me. No more hiding. No more letting others take credit. No more shrinking myself to fit someone else's narrative. Frederick still sends Nathan angry emails about the family fortune I stole. Martin works at a Best Buy. Paige became a life coach, ironically specializing in finding your authentic self. And Nathan, he remarried last year, a young woman who thinks he's a tech visionary down on his luck. I wanted to warn her, but some lessons you have to learn yourself. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant about another acquisition offer, this time from Google. I smiled and texted back. Schedule a meeting. And David, make sure the conference room has better chairs than that old mahogany table. We're not a garage startup anymore. Though sometimes I miss those days. Just me, my code, and a dream. Before I learned that sometimes the biggest threat to your success isn't market competition or technical challenges. Sometimes it's the people who claim to love you while plotting your downfall around your own conference table. But every empire faces coup attempts. The strong ones survive by remembering who really holds the power. And in my company, built with my code, my vision, and my 15-hour days, that would always be me. Not the housewife who got lucky, the founder who got even. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.